There is one thing that almost no father or mother wants to hear. But if you are raising a child between the ages of 2 and 5, there is a good chance that every single day you unintentionally say at least one sentence that makes your child feel a little more alone. Not because you do not love your child, and not because you are a bad parent. Quite the opposite. Everything you do comes from wanting your child to grow into a kind person, someone who knows how to behave, who knows how to listen, who knows how to respect others. But what many parents have never been taught is this: the same sentence can carry two completely different meanings. The meaning the adult intends to communicate, and the meaning a young child's brain actually receives. You say, "You are a big kid now." You want to encourage your child to be stronger. But what your child may hear is, "I am not allowed to be vulnerable." You say, "You're fine." You want your child to calm down. But what your child feels is, "No one understands how I feel." You say, "Why are you always like this?" You are only disappointed with the behavior. But a young child can easily think, "I am a bad child." That is the difference between adults and young children. Adults separate behavior from identity. Young children cannot do that yet. During the early years of life, a child's brain is still learning how to understand the world, and a parent's words become one of the things that shape that world. The good news is, you do not need to learn dozens of complicated parenting methods. You do not have to become a perfect parent either. Sometimes, changing just a few words can completely change the way your child sees themselves. In today's video, we are going to look at 9 phrases that many parents use every single day. Not to judge anyone, not to make anyone feel guilty, but to better understand a young child's developing brain. Because the ultimate goal of parenting is not to raise a child who stays quiet all the time. It is to raise a person who knows how to love themselves, who knows how to regulate their emotions, who knows how to respect other people, and who always feels safe coming home. Praise number 1, "You're just overreacting." This is an incredibly common phrase, especially when a child cries over something adults consider small. A cracker breaks in half. Their socks are the wrong color. It is time to leave the playground. Or someone picks up their favorite toy. Adults look at the situation and think, "Is this really worth crying over?" But here is what matters. A child's brain does not evaluate situations the way an adult's brain does. For a 3-year-old, leaving the playground may be the biggest disappointment of the entire day. Not because they are spoiled, but because they simply have not lived long enough to put things into perspective. When you say, "You're overreacting," you unintentionally send your child a message. Your feelings are wrong. The way you react is not normal. After hearing this enough times, a child may begin to doubt their own emotions. Instead of helping your child deny their feelings, help them name those feelings. You could say, "I know you're really disappointed. You really wanted to keep playing, didn't you? It's hard to stop when you're having so much fun." Just 3 short sentences, but they make an enormous difference. When a child's emotions are acknowledged, their brain begins to feel safe, and only when they feel safe can they begin to calm down. That is why a parent's first goal should never be to stop the crying. It should be to help the child move through those emotions in a healthy way. Asterisk, raise number 2. If you don't listen, I'm going to leave you here. Maybe you only say it to scare your child. Maybe you know you would never actually do it. But a young child does not. To a child, their parents are their whole world, the one place where they feel completely safe. So every time they hear phrases like, "I'm leaving without you," "Daddy doesn't want you anymore," "You can stay here by yourself," their brain does not hear a warning. It hears a real threat. Researchers who study parent-child attachment have found that the fear of being abandoned is one of the strongest instinctive fears a young child can experience. Even if a parent is only joking, a child's nervous system may still respond as though danger is real. That does not mean you should never set limits. Quite the opposite. Children need clear boundaries. But instead of using fear, describe what is going to happen. You need to hold Mommy's hand while we cross the street. If you keep running away, Mommy will have to carry you to keep you safe. Here, you are not creating fear. You are creating clarity. Children cooperate much better when they know what to expect. Instead of constantly worrying about the worst thing that might happen to them. Asterisk. Ray number 3. Why can't you behave like your brother or sister? Comparison. It may be one of the easiest things to do, but it is also one of the easiest ways to leave a lasting wound. When parents are exhausted, we often think if we use another child as an example, our child will be motivated to change. But in reality, the opposite usually happens. What a child hears is not, "You need to behave better." What they hear is, "I am not good enough. I will always be less than someone else. I disappoint my parents." The sad truth is, no one grows up with healthy self-esteem by constantly being compared to someone else. Every child develops at their own pace. Every child has their own strengths, their own personality. Some children are naturally outgoing. Some are quiet observers. Some begin talking very early. Others take longer to develop language. None of those things determine their worth. As parents, the best thing we can do is not to ask, "Why aren't you like everyone else?" Instead, ask, "Are you becoming a little better than you were yesterday?" A child who is encouraged to compete only with themselves grows up with confidence, instead of growing up believing they must always be better than everyone else. Asterisk. Praise number 4. Don't bother the grown-ups. Most of us probably heard this sentence when we were children. The adults were talking, working, answering a phone call. Then a little child came running over, wanting to show a picture they had just drawn, wanting to tell everyone about the butterfly they had just seen, or simply wanting a hug. The response was often, "Don't bother us. Go play outside. Let the adults talk." At first, it sounds like a perfectly ordinary sentence. But when it is repeated often enough, a child's brain begins to build a very dangerous belief. I only matter when adults have free time. My needs always come last. I shouldn't ask anyone for help. That is one reason why so many adults struggle to express their emotions. They apologize before asking for help. They worry about bothering other people. They believe their problems are not important enough to share. Not because they were born that way, but because very early in life, they learned that their presence was an inconvenience. That does not mean parents should stop everything every time their child calls. That is not realistic either. A child does not need immediate attention every single time. What they really need is to know that you will come back. You can smile and say, "Daddy needs 2 more minutes to finish talking. Then I want to hear everything you have to tell me." A clear promise, eye contact, a gentle touch on the shoulder. Sometimes that is all it takes for a child to feel truly seen. Asterisk. Raise number 5. Boys don't cry. This is one of the most common phrases parents say. And it is also one of the ones that leaves the deepest scars. Many people believe they are teaching their son to be strong. But in reality, they are teaching him to hide his emotions. A little boy who gets hurt, who feels disappointed, or who experiences emotional pain has every right to cry, just like every other human being. Tears do not make a child weak. What makes a child feel weak is believing that they must carry every painful feeling alone. Psychologists have found that children who are allowed to name and express their emotions usually develop stronger emotional regulation as they grow older. On the other hand, children who are constantly told to suppress their feelings often express those emotions in other ways. Through anger, irritability, or emotional withdrawal. Instead of saying, "Boys don't cry," try saying, I know you're feeling really sad. It's okay to cry. When you're ready, we'll talk about what happened. That does not make a child weak. It teaches them something much more important. Their emotions are not the enemy. Asterisk, Ray number 6. I'm disappointed in you. There are some sentences that adults forget very quickly, but children remember for a very long time. I'm disappointed in you is one of those sentences. Most parents say it because they want their child to recognize their mistake. But what children often hear is, I made mommy sad. I'm not a good child anymore. I'm only loved when I behave the right way. A parent's love should never become a reward for good behavior, and it should never disappear when a child makes a mistake. What children need to learn is that actions have consequences. Not that their worth depends on whether they make other people happy. Instead of saying, I'm disappointed in you, focus on the behavior. What you just did hurt your little brother. That choice wasn't okay. Let's figure out a better way to handle this. It may sound like only a few words have changed, but the difference is enormous. One sentence judges the child, the other addresses the behavior, and that difference helps protect a child's self-esteem, even while they are learning to take responsibility for their mistakes. Asterisk number 7. You're driving me crazy. Almost every parent has said this at some point. After a long day, you are exhausted. Your child refuses to get dressed, refuses to brush their teeth, keeps saying no, keeps testing your limits. Finally, the words slip out. You're driving me crazy. In that moment, maybe you are simply trying to release some of your frustration, but to a young child, the message sounds very different. Your child begins to think, I am the reason mommy is unhappy. I ruin everything. I am a difficult child. That is a burden no child should ever have to carry, because children are not responsible for managing an adult's emotions. Adults are responsible for managing their own emotions. That does not mean you have to pretend you are never tired. Quite the opposite. Being honest about your feelings is healthy, but express them in a way your child can understand. You could say, Mommy is feeling very tired. I need a few minutes to calm down. It's not because you're a bad child. It's because today has been a very hard day. You are teaching your child something incredibly important. Every person is responsible for their own emotions, not for carrying someone else's emotional burden. That lesson becomes the foundation for healthy relationships later in life. Asterisk, Raise number 8. If you don't behave, the boogeyman will come and get you. Maybe where you live, there is no such thing as the boogeyman. Some parents use the police instead. Some use the doctor. Some use the teacher. Some threaten to leave their child behind. Goal always the same, to make the child afraid, so they will obey. It is true. Fear can create silence very quickly, but that does not mean a child has actually learned what is right. Child development experts often emphasize that discipline based on fear only creates obedience in the short term. Over time, it weakens a child's sense of security. When a child believes the world is full of threats, their nervous system stays on high alert. That makes it harder to focus, harder to learn, and much easier to become anxious. Instead of using fear, talk about the real consequence. If you run into the street, a car could seriously hurt you. That's why I need you to hold my hand. You do not need to invent a frightening character. The truth is enough to teach the lesson. Our goal is not to make children afraid. Our goal is to help them understand. Asterisk, phrase number 9. Why do you never listen? This may be the most common phrase of all, and it is also the one that leaves many parents feeling completely helpless. After repeating yourself over and over again, you eventually ask, why do you never listen? But try looking at the situation through your child's eyes. Imagine a 3-year-old, completely absorbed in play. Their brain is fully focused on what they are doing. When a parent calls their name, they are not always ignoring it on purpose. Very often, Their brain simply needs a little more time to shift its attention. That is a normal part of development, not defiance. There is something else worth noticing. The question, "Why do you never?" can quietly become a label. You are a child who never listens. When a label is repeated often enough, it can slowly become part of a child's identity. Instead of asking, "Why do you never listen?" try connecting first. Walk over to your child. Gently touch their shoulder. Look into their eyes. Then say, "Can you look at mommy for a second? I need your help with something." It is only a small change. But children are often much more willing to cooperate, because young children respond far better to connection than to criticism shouted from across the room. Asterisks ending. If you have noticed something, all 9 phrases we talked about today have one thing in common. None of them come from a lack of love. Quite the opposite. They are the words of mothers and fathers who are doing the very best they can. Parents who are raising their children with everything they know. And sometimes, that is exactly what makes parenting so difficult. Because so many of us are raising our children with the same words we once heard ourselves. We repeat those phrases, not because they are always right, but because they feel familiar. The good news is, every generation has the chance to write a different story. You do not have to become a perfect parent. Your child is not asking for that. What your child truly needs is an adult who is willing to keep learning, willing to apologize when they are wrong, willing to hug their child after an argument, and willing to listen, even when what their child wants to say seems very small to an adult. Years from now, your child probably will not remember the exact toy you bought. They will not remember what was served for dinner tonight. They will not remember how long that family vacation lasted. But they will remember one thing: how they felt when they were with you. Did they feel safe? Did they feel heard? Did they believe that even when they made a mistake, they were still deeply loved? Because in the end, what shapes a child's childhood is not a collection of perfect moments. It is thousands of ordinary conversations that teach a child, "My voice matters us, my feelings deserve respect, and home is always a place where I belong." So starting today, do not try to change everything at once. Just choose one sentence, one response, one moment, and do it differently. Because sometimes one sentence changed today can become the memory that helps heal your child's heart for the rest of their life.